Okay, so if you're watching this video, sorry you missed. Barbie had some issues, but I didn't say anything else but that. So she can fill you in if you have questions. But when you're creating a class, again, Java is confusing because you have classes that are what we think of as classes with the UML diagram. And then when you have the classes that are just programs that Java calls classes. So this date thing is a real class, right? It's a class that's a class instead of a class that's an application. So when you do that, you're not going to have a public static void main in your date class, for example, okay? So those are the ones that need tests. So then you'll have to have a test program. And the test program will have to create an instance of that, okay? So if it were just called date, you would say date D1 is equal to new date, and then send it in parentheses the month, day, year, if that's what your constructor does. So once you've constructed one of those date objects, you would then run through all of its methods. Okay, so that would be its accessors and mutators. So you'd have to do a get month and a get day and a get year, then a set month, set day, set year, and then your display date. Okay, so that's how you test a class that you've created, a class that's a class. You have to test all of its methods. And it doesn't have to be complicated or fancy or anything, you just have to test them out. Okay, but and I know it's Java that's confusing. Other programs that we write, we're not creating a new class. So our class is an application. And again, the problems in the book will say to create an application or create a class. I'll say the same thing on the exam. If I say create a class, I'm talking about the ones with the UML diagrams with the accessors and mutators and the thises and the public and private and all that stuff. If I say create an application, then I'm talking about just a regular program that doesn't need any of that stuff, but we'll have a public static void main. Okay. I know that's confusing, and I don't know how to make it any less confusing. But if you have more questions, I can talk more about that. But there are two distinct kinds of things that we do in Java, and that gets confusing. And I understand, and I understand the confusion.
Hey, David.
Yes.
On the classes, like when those are set up, when you set up the class itself, that's essentially setting up like the skeleton guts of the program so that it could be used multiple times, right?
And then you set up, class, yes.
And then you set up the test to actually test what that program does. Whereas the application, the skeleton and guts and running is all in one set, I guess.
Yeah, mostly. I would mostly agree with that. When you're doing a class, it's a class, you're creating a new complex structure, like a date, like a vehicle, like an account, like an employee, okay? Then you write an application to test it, okay? When you're doing a regular application like the prime number things, you're not creating a new object at all. You're not creating a new complex data type, okay? And that's kind of the difference between those two.
Okay.
We talked about classes being cookie cutters, and then we create cookies with them. If you're writing application, you're not creating any cookies. You're using, you're writing methods, and you're using the built-in data types, the ints and the floats and all that, but you're not creating a new custom data type.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if that made it better or worse. Hopefully better. So what other questions do you have? Hopefully you've watched the video. And looking through the homework, I think some of you are really close, but you're still a little confused, and some of you are fine. The ones that are confused, I think this last set of, and I've graded everything except the chapter 7 that's not due until due in a couple days, it seems like. So if you have, but that's going to be weird because that's going to be after the test. But if you turn the homework in before the test, I'll try to grade it and give you feedback. But you don't have to. But if you do, if you want feedback, that's what you got to do. But on the chapter 6, the ones with the methods, it's not enough when the question asks for you to create a method for you just to solve the problem. Okay, it wants you to create a method. I mean, that's the point of those. So I took points off if you didn't. I mean, I wasn't mad at you. I don't think you're an awful person or anything. So don't go there on it. But it's, you have to learn when they ask for a method to give them a method. Okay. And the point of those programs is not to find prime numbers. The point is to create a method so we can practice the method, because we already did a prime number before. Okay. So if I don't think the comments seemed harsh, but if they did, they were not meant to be harsh. When I grade so much, sometimes I get short, not short angry, just short like I got a lot to do. So if you ever think I'm being ugly, let me know, because I don't mean to be ugly. And I haven't given up on anybody yet, so that's a good sign. But anyway, that being said, look at the problem closely, and I think part of the problem, and you've probably seen this among your students, especially if you teach math at a higher level, that there's so much to do on these programs that you're thinking of so many things, and you may be a little anxious about all those things, that you don't read the problem carefully enough. And that can lead to some trouble. Okay. In fact, math anxiety is a thing. I don't know if I'm sure you've had students that have this. And with math, my daughter had math anxiety pretty bad. With math anxiety, your brain is so busy being anxious that you lose your short-term memory. So you don't remember the beginning of the problem by the time you get to the end. And you just really lose your way. So it's really important, if you're feeling stressed about this, that you develop the tactic of rewriting the program in your own word, the program description in your own words, so you understand it, and go through that ritual. Okay, it wants me to do this, it wants me to do that. Make a checklist. First off, the first thing I would write on a piece of paper is this asking for a class or an application. And if it's an application, then I need a public static void main. Okay. And then beyond that, does it want a method? If so, what methods does it want? Write those down. By writing it down, you take it out of your short-term memory onto paper. You can read the paper. And those techniques, I think, will keep us calm. And I've seen some, not many, some of you have gone, let's Google it for an answer. And your code is just crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's not really what we're doing. It doesn't solve the problem. And I understand that. I mean, it's in any online class, if you're teaching them, I'm sure you've seen this among your students, they have the world's knowledge at their beck and call. They can just do a search. I got to pass this class. I'm freaking out. Let me find something and turn it in for homework. But it doesn't do you any good is the issue. And I'm not saying anybody that's on this current version of this video has done this, but people have in the past, they have in this class. If you don't understand the code that you're doing, you've missed the whole point of the homework. I don't need to know how to do these code. I'm not having you write programs for me I'm selling on the street, because nobody cares about any of these programs. I'm trying to facilitate you learning how to code. Okay. And if you feel guilty with me talking about this, you're probably not the people that do it, because that's how people, I was that kind of student. If the professor would complain about students, I would feel guilty even if I didn't do that. So yeah, don't do that. But again, these are not beyond your grasp, but you're overcomplicating them. Hopefully you saw the video I just put out on, I did the prime number one, all that. That's a simple program. I mean, really, once you're looking at it in the rear view mirror, you're like, oh, that's a piece of cake. I mean, I hope you're seeing that. But that's not to make light of. When you're looking forwards at it, it can be a challenge. Okay, so I try in my videos to go through what I do subconsciously. Now I'm trying to do consciously for you, how to break a problem apart, how to get the pieces together so it's simple. If it's not simple, you're doing too much. That's what it comes down to. We're not doing super complicated programs yet. It doesn't mean they're not hard if you don't get them lined up right. So it's getting them lined up right that's of utmost importance. And that's the best skill for you to practice when it comes for the exam. Okay. If you need me to do other homework problems, any of them that we've done, send me a message and I will do what I can. I mean, I can't do them all, but I will do what I can to post a video out there where I go through step by step how I would solve the problem. That's more important than the syntax in many ways. I think almost everybody in here, if not everybody, went through the Python class. So you made it through there. A program's a program. Java's really weird in particular, but the basic skeleton of the code is exactly the same. And it may not feel like that right now, but it is. We're doing the same things, just in weird ways and very wordy ways. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
since you're comparing the two,
Yep.
sometimes with some of the words like methods, functions,
Yep.
objects and instances.
Yeah, they're the same. They're the
Okay.
same. And those,
Okay, good. Okay.
an object is an instance. Yes.
Okay. Sometimes the book even, you know, uses one with one problem and then another, and I'm like, okay,
Well, a class like the date class is an abstract concept, right? It's not a thing. It creates things. What does it create? It creates an object. So an object's a generic term. Of course, an array is an object. Lots of things are objects. So not only instances of classes are objects, but instances of classes are objects. But then an instance refers specifically to an object created from a certain class. So if you have an instance of the employee class, then that means that's an employee data type that you created. Okay, that's an object.
And those, when it's using this dot name for the instances, is that just like a variable trying to set it to something?
Well, when you say this, you're pointing specifically to what is in the class definition, not being sent in as a parameter. And you need that if your constructor, for example, for your program, asks, it takes in a string month, string day, string year. If you want it, and with the exact same names as the names that are in the up in the private section, okay? If you say month equal month, it's going to be nonsense. The computer's going to be confused. So when you say this month equals month, the this month refers to the one that's in the instance, not the one you're sending into the function. Okay. I tend just to name them different. You don't have to worry about it. There's no reason to name them the same thing. I would name it, MD and Y. And then you can just say month equal M, and you don't need any of this stuff. Sometimes you may be forced into this, but in general, you don't need to. Okay. Other questions about anything?
Yes, I have a question. On your video, I heard you say something about somebody had put several switch statements and they could have just used an array and it would have been easier.
Yep.
Can you kind of tell me, like, what would be an example of when we'd use a switch statement? Or like, will you say use a switch statement?
Yes. Switches do one thing, and it does it pretty well. If you have distinct options for something, think of like a menu. A menu, you have pick 1 through 5. You have 5 distinct cases. So that's when you can use a switch. Okay. You could use an if for that, and you can always use an if. You never have to use a switch, but a switch facilitates that. A switch is good when you have a limited number of choices that are very distinct. As opposed to an if statement, if you're dealing with ranges of things, if it's less than 100, do this. If it's over 1,000, do that. Then switches don't work well there. Okay, so when your options are finite and well defined, that's where a switch comes in. Okay.
Will you have any questions that you'll say use a switch statement, or do we just need to decide what's best?
I don't think I would have you do that. I can't imagine that I would do that. So, I've already said you never need a for loop. You can always use a while instead, and you never need a switch. So if you want to just take those from your brain because it's too full of stuff, that's okay.
Hey, David,
do whiles are just weird. Yes.
Okay.
On that same topic, if you were to write an if statement with the switch and like you were getting input from the user of like, let's say 1 through 5,
yep.
Would you just say if input equals 1, whatever, else if, yes. Else if, and that's how you would do it?
Yep.
Okay.
Has the book covered else ifs yet? I was looking through there. I didn't see them, which seemed weird.
I don't have any idea.
It's really weird.
I think it did. Yeah, I think we've used them.
All that, because I think I was thinking Python has the elif and it didn't. Yeah. So I'm thinking it did somewhere.
Or do you just say if?
No, well, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look it up real quick. So, because I think it's else if 2 words in. In Java.
I swear, I think we've used them.
Else keyword. It doesn't say else if anywhere. That's really.
Maybe it's just else.
Maybe you can't get an else if.
Oh, well, no, it's that pseudocode after. Well, no, on 111, the pseudocode may be written as Java. They've got their else if on 2 different lines. Else. Oh wait, well. No, actually, that's not really the same thing, is it? Because it's got an inside of bracket. Well, no, it is. They've got else, bracket, new line, tab in, if.
Oh yeah, that's weird, but yeah.
It's a weird way to do it. But
So could you do just if with another if statement like nested inside it? If.
Yes. Yeah, the book has if else double selection, but it doesn't have the if multiple. I'll have to look this up. I assume that there's an else if in Java.
I've been using it a lot, so
Well,
it definitely does work. It else space
Doesn't
if.
ever mention it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Else if, yeah, two separate words. Okay, but yeah, the book doesn't. I didn't think I had found that, which is crazy. If you want to use that, go ahead. That's cool.
Okay, I swear I think I've used it, but I could be wrong. Who
No,
knows?
it's fine. It works because that's what I mean. Coming from Python, that's a thing, and you may do it. And the book may mention it, but I don't remember seeing it when I looked for it because I wanted to know whether I could use that in my example or not. I think I did anyway, but yeah, weird. But it is else if, two separate words, not the elif. I think Python's the only one that does elif. Else if is also like C++.
You could do it either way. You could either do the nested if statements or you could do the if else and it would work.
It would. The nested ones sometimes are more efficient, but sometimes you get kind of lost in all those nestings, especially like the one problem that I did where you have to say it's wrong two different places because you have to account for all those options. So that's the thing you have to worry about a little bit in nested if statements.
Okay.
So what else do you want to talk about? Some of you look stressed out.
It's on page 112, else if.
Okay, I'm glad you found it because I was worried about it.
Well, I think it may start on 110, 4.6. I knew it was in there.
There's if else. I still think there's else if. No, there's no else.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm always stressed with this, these programming classes.
These are all
Virgil, I have to say, I'm really jealous because I can see your book and it's hardbound. And I don't know if anybody else got it, but mine is a leaflet with the rings in it. And I am deathly afraid it's going to fall apart because I don't have a small binder enough to put it in.
You know, Trapper Keeper? Come on, everybody needs a Trapper Keeper.
At least it's something physical this time.
Well, it's not.
I
It's
think
not
I ordered mine
three-hole
from Amazon
punch.
rather than.
A
It's
regular
not
size
three-hole
binder will work if you use just two of the rings.
punch. So it does fit.
Yes.
Yes.
Please.
You have to have like a
Yes.
3-inch though, or at least a 2-inch.
It's the simple things in life that kill you.
Apparently.
Not-
That's so weird
not
because
me.
you're usually on top of stuff and it's usually me to drop the ball. But I didn't drop the ball this time. I sent it to the bookstore. I sent it to Heather. So I don't know who dropped the ball, but it was not me, which is shocking because I'm an absent-minded professor and I forget all kinds of stuff.
But I'm so jealous sitting there staring at Virgil's hardbound book and mine's a leaflet.
You paid the cash money though. That's the difference.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, I've got this and I've got the ebook. I got the ebook when you mentioned it at the beginning of the class, and I did the first homework assignment. I was like, no, this is not going to work. I need a hard copy.
It's funny. Okay, what else do we need to talk about?
I had a question on our exam. If we work out the programs, but we still have something going on to where they won't run, I mean, we still take off several points if they don't run
I will take off
also,
some
or
but not massive amounts of points.
okay.
If it's one dumb thing that you just can't get to work, and I'm like, oh, you forgot a semicolon. Yeah, no, that's not a big error. The way I grade programs suck to grade. They're difficult to grade. It's hard to do it. So what I always do is with a rubric, where if the program needs, a loop structure, then you get so many points for having a loop structure. And then if it needs a class definition, you get so many points for that. So all the parts of the program have points associated with them. And whether it runs or not, it's usually a minority of points. I usually look at the code rather than running it.
Okay.
Make sure you put comment blocks. Most of you are doing that. Some of you still are not. And some of your code is super generic looking. Your print statements, there's nothing to them, you know, and try to make them a little bit more deluxe. I mean, they don't have to be fancy, but don't print out, you know, just the value. You know, explain what the value is. Make it look a little nicer. That shouldn't take long. That's not what takes long in a program. So yeah, you don't want the generic version of programs. Yes, Virgil.
In class declarations,
Mhm.
do you have to specify each and every one is public or private, or can you do like a block of these are all private, these are all public?
I don't think it, like in C++, I don't think it does blocks,
Okay.
which is weird. I always have to double check that, but I think it does. You have to do one for every single one.
Okay.
And the other thing that the book has mentioned, because the book is good about how, here's this thing we'll talk about next year, the try catch blocks will not be on this exam. Okay, we'll probably hit those later, I would imagine, before the final, but they've only just teased us with it now and haven't really done much with that. So there won't be anything that needs the try catch. Okay. Exception handling in general is not going to, we're not there yet. Know that, and you've probably heard me say it, that you can't trust user input. Users are either malicious or stupid or both. But for now, we're going to be trusting. So if you ask somebody for an integer, we're going to assume they give us an integer. If you ask them choices between 1 and 5, we're going to assume they're going to do that. Okay. Or if it's in a switch, then you could have that default being not a valid choice, and that would be okay. But we're not going to be overly caught up in that. Okay. So right now, I want you to be able to do basic classes that are classes, basic with all the accessors and mutators and the test program. I want you to be able to do applications. The applications we're going to use, the sequential just goes down the line with the code. It's going to be using the selection with the if and the else and the if and else ifs, okay, or a switch. And I want you to be able to do loops with the for loops and the while loops, the big ones. Again, you don't have to use for if you don't really want. Do while are optional if you're special, not special, so don't use do whiles. And then create your own methods, your static methods, and all that. Is anyone confused on static? Do you need me to talk more about static? What does static mean?
Go ahead and talk about it.
Yes, please.
I'd like to hear it.
Everyone's
Go
like,
to my brain.
I say it, but I don't want to be the one.
Just in case, I'd like to hear it one more time.
We're all friends. Okay. So let me go to this. You don't want this mess. This is from my data structures class. I think you're taking data structures with Karen. I believe that's right. I forget if I'm teaching algorithms or data structures. I'm teaching one of them. Why can't I change the size of it? There we go. Okay. So the idea of static. Okay. And other languages don't have this, at least not as a keyword, because it comes down to if you have classes that are classes. Okay, these are like the UML diagram things. Okay, these have functions. Let's say that as part of this class, you have a function called, get, I don't know, name. Okay, that function can only be called if we have our class here as, let's say it's employee. We do something in our code like employee E is equal to new employee with whatever data we've got to send. Okay, I would then say E dot get name. Okay, so this function belongs to the instance, not the class. Okay, so that's the normal way to do things when we're doing these kinds of classes. Okay, so that's a non-static function. You get to a static function when you're creating a program. So this is a class, because everything's a class, but it's an application. Okay, so this is chapter 7 problem 12.java. Okay, Nowhere are you going to make an instance of this. It's not made for that. It's not this kind of class. It's this kind of class. It's an application. Okay. So when you create a function here, okay, it's a public function, it's going to be static because whatever it's called, prime, we could call it one of the examples there. And I would need a double or and, whatever that is. Okay. But this function belongs to the class, not to an instance of the class, because you're not going to make any instance of the class. Okay. So that's where the static comes in. Static means it belongs to the class definition, not to an instance of the class. Okay. Now you can have static variables over here. The example is given if you're creating an employee class and you want to have a variable employee count. Okay. So every time that a new employee is created during the running of the program, it's going to update that. Well, that count, okay, if we have a static employee count or e count, this can't be part of any one particular employee or it wouldn't make any sense. So it becomes a part of the whole class. So that's using a static in a class that's a class. But if you're creating your normal methods that you create in an application, like all the homework except I think from chapter 3, okay, then all of those have to be static because they don't relate to any instance of the class because you don't make instances of those. Okay. The other place, and the Eclipse tends to tell you if you're writing something that should be static. I know that I put in some global variables that were outside of the main. Okay. So here. So I had my, class, whatever it was called, and then it started in here. And then before my public static void main string args, all that stuff, this zone in here, we can put in global variables.
This might answer your question. Johnson City is in
I don't know why that Alexa thinks I'm asking her a question about something, but such is life. So global variables can go in here, okay? So for a global variable, if you put it here, since it's not in one of the functions, it has to be static as well, okay? So you have to say, because if I declare it down here, it gets, grandfathered into the static with this keyword. So if I wanted to put, like on my my array problem, I did a final makes it a constant, static, because it's not part of this other static, and it's not going to be a part of any instance of that. Int rows equal 10, whatever. Okay, so the static can be used there as well. But if you're inside of this function, anything here, if I were going to do like rows equal to 10 here, int rows equal to 10, it would need to be static because it's already static because it's in a static function. Okay. Does that help or hurt? Okay. Yes, Virgil.
Back on your previous slide where you had the static inside the employee class.
Yep.
We would just, that's, functionally the same as if it was in the same .java file as the main, right?
No, because it's going to work for all instances. It belongs to the object itself, so you can count all the objects that are created.
Well, I'm talking about the e count specifically.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So when you have your test program over here with the main, you can do whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way to get to all this is part. You're declaring an instance up here of employee or whatever. So you can do things with that employee object, but you can't know how many employees that there are. Okay. So for something like that, you have to go back over to the employee class. Okay. And put the static int e count. Okay. And then it in your constructor for the employee. Okay. So your public employee that takes whatever it takes. You could say e count is equal to e count plus 1, okay? And it keeps this separate from all the other instances of the employee, okay? That's kind of a specialized case. I'm not going to ask it on the exam, okay?
Oh, okay. Wow.
So where you're going to see static is going to be over here. When you're creating a method, and again, a method in an application, not in a class class, okay? Then it needs to be static.
Well, just to finish the thought on it. So would we, if we were calling that, it would be just called as e count, not employee, like e1.ecount?
Yep.
Okay.
The one we use a lot, we have math.py.
Yeah.
That's a static variable
Okay.
because it doesn't, you don't ever say, you know, math M1 is equal to new math, right?
Yeah.
You don't ever say that, okay? So
Okay.
to be able to get to those variables, that is a static variable. It belongs to the math class, not to any object of type math.
Okay. So yeah, that clarifies that.
Okay.
David, can I ask a question on that too, just to make sure I understand?
Yes.
So like in your class part of that E count would be like a method that you create inside that employee class. And then when you do the application, you would call it?
No, it's just a variable in this case
Okay.
that would be updated in the constructor.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. What else do you want to talk about? Some of you look stressed. Some of you put up smiley face images of yourself. It could be disconcerting.
David, can I ask a stupid question that's like from way back?
I may give you a stupid answer in a funny voice, but probably not.
The modulo operator with the remainder,
Yes.
and when we did this with the like finding the individual numbers.
Yep.
When you divide by that modulus, whether you divide by 10 or divide by 1,000, for some reason, I just don't understand how that works. Like, I know that it chops things off.
Okay.
But I don't know. I've been on the struggle bus with that one.
Yeah, that's a common thing to get confused by. Let's take a look here.
I mean, I can use it correctly, but I'm not sure I exactly understand how it works.
Right. Okay. On the small one, yes. Okay. So let's say we've got a 3-digit number and we want to pull out those digits. Okay. So to get to this 1 in that position, okay, if I divide it by 100, okay, it's going to return, because this is an integer and that's an integer, it's going to return only the integer portion and get rid of it. Okay, so that's equal to 1. That's it. Okay, so I could, if a better example, if we say n is equal to 100, then I can say d100 is equal to n divided by 100. Okay, and in our case here, this is going to equal 1. Okay, do you see that?
Yes.
Because it would be 1.23, but you can't store that in an integer, so it takes it away. Okay.
Okay, so the reason it cuts it off is because you do it as an integer, not a float. Okay.
If you have a 5-gallon bucket and you pour 10 gallons of water in it, how much water do you have? 5 gallons, right?
And,
Okay.
what exactly was the difference between a double and a float?
It's a size thing, how much they go into precision. I wouldn't worry about it. Use either one. They're interchangeable at this point. They're not really interchangeable long term, but for this exam, either one's fine. Okay. So now the next step, if we wanted to go through and get the tens place, I could try this, but if I did, it's going to give me 12. It'd be 12.3, then it lops off the 0.3. Not correct. Okay? But before I do that, I have to get rid of that 1. Okay, that's where the modulo operator comes in. So when I say n is equal to n mod 100, okay, what I'm saying is take the 100, oh, sorry, take the n, the 123, okay, we're going to divide it by 100, okay. Okay, is that in the right place? No, other way around.
Got them backwards.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, you're taking the 123 divided by 100, okay, which is going to give me a 1 here, and it's going to give me a remainder of 23 because I can't do anything else unless I'm going to go fraction. It's an integer, I can't go fraction. Okay, so the 100, sorry, the 123 mod 100, the answer is 23. It's the remainder that equals 23, which is what we want, because now I can say D10 is equal to n divided by 10, and it's going to give me correctly the 2. It would give me a 2.3, but it takes that off. Okay. So that's how that works. The modulo is the remainder operation. Okay.
So then to get the 3, you would do the same thing.
Yep.
It would be n mod 10. Okay, because you want the remainder to be 3.
But in fact, I could go straight to D1 because that's your last digit.
Right, right. Okay, I see how that works now.
Okay. And then again, that's saying 10 divided by 23. Okay. So you get the 2 there, the 20, the 3's left over. So you get that. Okay. And that wasn't a stupid question, so I didn't use a funny voice.
Thank you, I appreciate that. To be honest with you, it's been irking me the whole time because I basically understood how to use it, or I could use it correctly and get it to work, but I had no clue why. I knew it had to do with the remainder, but I didn't exactly understand why.
It's funny that in programming we often have almost incantations like a spell. I know if I do this, it's going to work, and maybe I used to know, maybe I don't know, but I know it's going to work. So yeah, that's okay. I don't ask you the whys. So if you know that it works, it's okay. Yes, Virgil.
If we're accessing a class that's in a class we created that's in a different file from the main, as long as we only need to use the import if they're not in the same package, right?
Yeah, and you don't want to do that. Yeah, keep it all simple. Keep it all in the same directory. You're going to be fine.
Or rather, if they're in the same package, it assumes they're imported or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. I just do. Some of you are using multiple packages, which okay, but I would just use one package for the whole class for me, because packages are important if you're doing big projects, but they're kind of overkill for what we're doing. Okay, but it's not a problem if you're doing that. But yeah. And again, Eclipse is a help, right? It's an aid in this exam. I almost had us go on the server, which you would not have been happy with. But it made my life easier. The grading would be much easier. But I think that, you know, in the real world, you're going to have something like Eclipse, and it's going to be there to tell you when you've made an error and offer you some guidance as to what the error is. Okay. On the exam situation, if you get an error you don't understand, you can Google the error and try to figure it out. That's perfectly allowed. But I would instead try to think about it. You've got time, go take a walk, go, do something, a different problem to clear your head a little bit. Because when you go down the Google rat hole, who knows what people are going to tell you. You're going to get too much information and it's going to overwhelm you, at least potentially. Okay. So, what else do you want to know? I don't know why you decided to sign up for this. That's between you and yourself, so I can't help you there. But this is easier than discrete math, right?
No.
I took discrete math 20 years ago. I don't really remember.
Not at all.
I have a question about that homework problem.
Okay, which one?
The date one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, well, I still can't figure it out. I've been trying to go back and forth while we were talking about static, because I knew that was for an app. Oh, I need to share screen. May I?
I think it's, I don't think I turned that off, so you should be able to.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to do it until I asked.
It's okay.
It's
Okay.
okay, going back to the class, on my set methods,
Yes.
multiple markers at this line, void methods cannot return a value.
Yeah. That's
Should
what
I have set those to string also?
No, that's not your issue. The issue is of the set month is not going to return anything. It's just going to change that month, right? So it's going to have an input parameter. So it has to be set month, string month.
Oh, in the parentheses.
No, no parentheses. Oh,
Oh.
yeah, in parentheses, right. I thought I've heard quotation when you said that for some reason. Yeah, that's correct. And then instead of returning,
Okay.
you're going to say this month equal month,
Oh.
because
okay.
you're setting that.
For
And
some reason, I thought that I thought that went in the test section.
no.
Okay.
And
You
again,
also have, sorry,
no, go ahead.
you also have string get day and then you're returning the month. And then you have get year and you're returning the month. I think that's just from where you copied it, but just wanted
Yeah,
to look
it
at
is.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I'll have to go back and redo all those though anyway.
you don't want
Okay.
people to set the month anything, right? That's one of the reasons we do information hiding, right? So what you want to
What
do
did you say?
that you don't want to allow someone to set the month to whatever string that they want. Okay. So what you should do inside of the set month where there are only valid values, you want to test to see if it's equal between 1 and 12. And since it's a string, that's a little harder to do, and you don't have to do that for this exercise. But in general, that's why we do it.
Oh,
right?
I should have left it at integers then.
I probably would have, but I don't know that.
Yeah, I was getting so many errors. I just thought I was using the wrong
No.
command or something.
Because then you could say in your set month, if the month coming in is greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 12, you set it. If not, you just don't. Because you don't want a month of 55.
You're changing the wrong function right now. You're changing your get day into a.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Virgil.
Yep.
Now, why do I have a problem there? Oh, because I didn't do. Never mind.
Yeah, it probably would have been quicker.
It
just
had to be empty.
set to get.
Okay.
And then rewrite the set.
Yeah, I would get, and
Your
here's
turn.
I'm lazy by nature, which I think programmers tend to be. I would get a get and a set, the first one done, and then cut and paste that for the rest of it. That gives you the basic idea. All gets are going to have the return type of the variable, and they're going to just do a return. All sets are void and have to make a change to the variable. And again, think about if it makes sense to have limitations on that.
Hey, David, on those, when you have this dot month equals month, is that just like initializing that variable to say that when that's put in, this is going to be month?
No, what it's doing is when it says this month refers to the month up on line 10. Could you scoot that up just a little bit, Barbie?
Sure.
Okay, that month, this dot month refers to setting the month that's stored in the instance. Okay, this other month without the this is the variable parameter you're sending in. Okay.
Okay.
And again, if you would just say string m, then you could say just month is equal to m. But it's because you have 2 months here. You have the month that's being sent in as a parameter. You have the month that's being stored as part of the class. It's part of the instance of the class. So the this.month, this means the object I'm currently attached to.
Does line 17 not have to have a capital D for day, since line 11 is capital D?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
Because you're dealing with I mean, I would for consistency, but because you're dealing with parameters, not the names of the instance variables, it shouldn't matter. Okay. And then
Okay,
again,
and then I have a question about the, is it okay that I scroll down?
yes.
I want to fix this one. That year. And then this month. Sorry.
Remember to indent, so I don't have an ulcer.
Hey, if a miracle upon miracles, if I get this far, just say bless her.
But it's this
Would
year,
you? Okay.
your month of
Did I
set.
do that?
Yeah, you just said
Year.
Void set year. Oh, thank you. Can't talk and type at the same time.
Understand that.
Going
Okay.
back
One more year.
And then before.
this dot year.
Oh, this day. It didn't flag me. That was okay.
There was an orange box around it for some reason, which is
I didn't even see one. Okay. Okay. Now I have a question about the test.
You
And
got
all
a
the print
problem on
statement.
44 too.
wait. I want to show you what that was doing. See, that's what I was saying. When you say this dot year, the orange box points to the one up in 12, right? That lets you know that's a variable. That's really cool. Because if you move over to the other year, it doesn't do that.
Well,
Say that again.
See where this year, the year is in an orange box, and there's
Yes.
another orange box up on 12. Click on the year on the other side.
Mhm. I see it.
Yeah, because
I did.
yeah. So click on the other one.
Yeah. Oh, on that one.
And see, that points to there. That is in a nutshell what that means. Okay. So that
David,
year is that year. Yes.
if you had done like up at the top in line 10, if you just done private string M,
Yes.
and then under where the parameters are for the method, done the words month, day, and year,
Mhm.
you wouldn't have to use this month, this dot month equals month. You could just say M
Yes.
equals month, but you're having to do that because they're named the same thing.
And I don't
Okay.
ever name them to avoid that, but yeah.
So if we were to get this on our exam and have to put something together like this,
Mhm.
as long as we don't use the same names, then you wouldn't have to use this dot month. And would
No.
that be okay?
Oh yeah, it's what I would do. Yeah, I
Because
would.
this dot month totally throws me because that doesn't make any sense. But the M equals month makes more sense.
Now I would have named it month, day, year. Then I would have had my input parameters be MD1 if it were me.
Okay.
But yeah, if they're not, they could even differ by a case, and it's okay. Yeah, Virgil.
going back to something you said a minute ago, the sets, I mean, it's a rare case where you would want to do it, but they could be something like a Boolean, right? So you could, and then like in your main, you could say if set day and like have it return false if it fails for some reason.
You could, but that's pretty complicated.
It's not forbidden though.
No,
Okay.
should be okay. But I think what you tend to do, at most, I would just give them a message, can't change it, and then go back. I wouldn't worry. And who knew that Booleans were the word Boolean? That's just crazy. It's Bool in other language. You probably saw me struggle with that in the video. I'm like, why is Bool not working? Because it's Boolean.
Well, yeah.
And I know Christina said something about line 40 or 42, but maybe it was 40.
44.
I do have lots of little X's that are kind of grayed out.
Those just expand and contract that block of code, just like minimizing it basically.
Well, that's the plus and minus, but on 34. But I think on 35, I don't know what it.
Oh wait, no, the X. Oh no, I was looking at the little minus sign.
On 44, she's got string get year, return month. So if you want it to work right, you're going to have to say return.
On what? 44? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
What happens if you
I
go?
think it's where I copied and paste. Maybe.
Don't forget to indent your
Uh-oh.
return statements.
No, get year was right.
Leave that year.
Appreciate you looking out for me, Dana.
Well, I'm saying get month.
But you're returning the month, not the year, I think is what she was saying.
Yeah.
Changed the wrong part.
But you know, my method says get month on 42.
You've already got to get month.
Well, you've already
I must have.
month twice.
25 is already a get month. All of you think they
Wait
get
a minute. I should stop copying and pasting. Okay. And sadly enough, I got all the way through this problem and thought, have we done this before?
month.
Sure enough, went to open and there it was.
I
What-
think the gray X's might just be where an error was but was fixed.
Oh, could be. What
Okay.
you go over there and hover over it?
Yeah. Month. It says syntax error.
You still need to change line 42 and 47, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just for it to be clear, to be correct, it still works. But there's not a syntax error anymore. I think it may be. I think whoever said that, Virgil or someone said, it may be where there used to be an error. That's possible. It's weird because there's not an error there now. Very weird.
Okay, can we look at the print statements on the test unless somebody else has something else to ask?
The print set, yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions, or we can go on? We need to close up shop here in a minute. We've been an hour already, but I will take this last question. If anybody else,
I'm sorry. Okay, so I know that there's a print statement to display the initial, I guess, string.
well, you've got a problem with 10 in that it takes 3 strings, not 1 string. You've got 1 string. Okay, so June has to have quotes around it.
Oh,
23 has to have quotes around it. 2021 has to have quotes around it. Yeah. Now it's still unhappy about something. What's that unhappy about now?
That's because she
Multiple-
has the display date as input next int, and it wouldn't be an input next int, would it? Because she hasn't used integers at all.
No, yeah, that's correct, but it's still giving a problem on 10.
It's because the constructor never got written. It's just a pair of empty
Oh, that's-
brackets.
You're correct. You didn't finish the constructor. That's what it is. But that would be correct normally.
The constructor's in her other one, right? In the applicant or in the class one.
so I have to do another one?
No, you just have to go back to your midterm practice date and just write the constructor. So you've
I
got
thought I had a constructor in there. The
no,
public midterm.
yeah, but you don't do anything. It's got to do something. It's got to set this dot month equal to month, and this dot day equal to day, and this dot year equal to year.
All those this statements again?
Yep.
And I took those out because I thought they weren't needed. Okay.
But if you fix that, it should fix the other.
Do I have that somewhere that I could copy and paste it?
It's
No.
good in pieces. Because
I
all
feel like I had it somewhere.
need a capital M month.
Oh, okay.
And a semicolon.
Semicolon, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, while she's fixing that, when are you planning on opening the exam?
Friday by noon, I would think. And you
Okay,
can start at any time up until Sunday evening. But once
okay,
you
do you think you could get it any earlier than that on Friday, or is that?
potentially, I'm gonna get
Okay.
up in the morning and finalize it. I get up early, so I'll try to, I'll put an announcement out there when it's up.
Okay.
Okay.
Want to arrange for a quiet moment so that I can have 3 solid hours of quiet.
That's maybe the trick for a lot of us, that's for sure.
Hey, David.
Yes.
After our Zoom meeting, I have a couple of questions on the arrays, but they're personal questions that do you have like 5 minutes after we get off that you could take a look at this?
Yep.
The problem on 10 is that your class is called midterm practice date, not date.
Okay, I thought it had to be the same as my class.
It's the same.
But
Yeah,
your class isn't called date. It should be the same word both times. New midterm practice date.
On the other side. You're on the wrong.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because I already had one date from when we did it way back when.
Yeah.
But I labeled all of the ones that I did for practice as midterm practice and whatever it was that I was doing. So,
Yep, now you're good.
okay. And she said, okay, so next, just line. So,
I don't know what you're trying to do. What are you trying to do?
Well, because I was going by the example in the textbook,
Mhm.
for the print statement,
Mhm.
in order to display it, it had a couple of different, it was printing a line with a get statement. Of course, it was for the account, so there was a lot going on there because they had a balance.
Right.
People were entering names and stuff like that.
Right. Well, what you need to do here, to print out, you could just do a whatever date one dot get, print out date one dot get month, and then you could print out date one dot get year. And then if you want them to enter things, then you could have them enter as a string, not as an int, and then do the set for that. Or you don't have to, you can just do it direct. I mean, you're testing the programs, okay? So you need to put that in a print statement because that's just going to return a string. So you have to say system print.
I thought it had to be underneath that, the print statement, the account.
No.
That's how the book has it.
Oh, you're not entering there. So you go. In fact, I would replace line 16. Just make that a print line, and then get rid of the quotes, and say date one dot get month with no quotes.
Oh.
Capital N.
And then do that for day and year.
Yeah, but see what it's telling you? It's telling you that the function has a capital M. So either click
Yes.
or you can change it either way.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and that's got to have quotes, got to have parentheses, open and close parentheses.
Oh.
Because get month is a method. Nope.
Oh, parentheses.
Right after the.
So another set?
Right after the H in month.
I need an open and close parentheses?
Yep.
So they can enter it, but no quotation marks in it.
No, and there's no parameter, but you still have to put them there anyway. Okay.
So do the quotation marks?
Nope, you're good. That's correct. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
And then if you do, then for the set, rather than ask them, what I would do, go down to the next line. I would just say day one or date one dot set month parentheses, and then in quotes put 06, whatever you want to put. Okay.
Well, wouldn't I have to use words since I did the first time instead of numbers?
Well, you can have numbers inside of a string. The numbers.
Oh, okay. Well, like in my class, I had like June 23rd and.
Say July.
Does it seem like we've been working on this a month? Okay. Oh, and do I need to use those slashes because that's how it was going to?
No, just end the quote. Yeah, then you can call your print, whatever you called your print statement, you can call that, but you have to put another double quote right where your cursor's at.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah. And you would want to test the same thing for the day, and the year doing the same thing. And then whatever you called your print function, you can just call that from there as well.
Say that again.
Click back on your class definition. So apparently you just called it date, which is weird, but okay. So go back over to the test program. Oh, but it takes a display date, and it shouldn't. It doesn't need to take anything. So get rid of the int display date.
Where are you at?
23. That function
Okay.
doesn't have any parameters at all. So get rid of the display date entirely. Just have the parentheses there.
Why is date weird since it's month, day, and year?
Because that function displays date. It's not the date itself. You don't need the int either. You need nothing.
Okay.
Yeah. So go back to your test one. Now you can run that one. So you can go to the next line, go to line 18.
Oh, you want me to keep typing it out while Christina asks her question?
That's okay. Because this should do it. So go ahead and do a new line there to get on 18.
Okay.
Say date 1 dot date parentheses parentheses. Then hit semicolon. That should be good. Okay. And if you run that, it should actually work, as far as I can tell.
It says errors still exist, so I don't know. But
Well,
it
did something.
did work.
I think we're on the right path mostly. So yeah, I think you just may have a few little cleanup things, but you're mostly that's mostly working, which is good. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Here.
Okay. I'm not sure. Never mind.
Okay.
I understand, I think.
Why don't you unshare? We'll have one last call for questions, and then
Okay.
after that we'll
Sorry.
start lines. You're fine.
You might be having problems still, Barbie, because some of your other things at the top had X's on them. Because I've had that with Eclipse too. It's like if I have something wrong in another class that I'm writing, then it won't currently run it. So like I'll go comment that out over on the side and then run it again and it works. So that might be, sorry for the cries.
Yeah. Okay. We all want to do that.
I'm sorry. It probably has a lot to do with me.
That should be good.
No, I don't think so.
I took too long. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Any other questions? And if you have questions between now and the exam starting, make sure you let me know. Send me a message and I'll try to get back to you on that.
What's your schedule like tomorrow?
I'm teaching tomorrow. My other class is ending on Friday, so tomorrow's a little rough. Tomorrow evening may be okay if people have some real issues. Yeah, Virgil.
Trying to think how for going back to the discussion of like the static earlier, like in what we were just looking at, could she have like call it public static date and take a date as a parameter or as the input?
Maybe, but you wouldn't want to do that. That's more
Okay.
complicated than it needs to be. It's
Okay.
a non-standard way. And yeah, you don't want to me, the golden rule of programming is just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to do things consistent. Use Occam's razor. The simplest answer is the best answer. So make your code. And again, Einstein said, your solution should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. And that's what we're looking for. Our program should have the minimum number of lines they can have to be clear, understandable, maintainable, and all that. So yeah, don't try to force things to do things that they don't naturally do. Okay. Any other questions?
I have some.
Yes.
Can I ask you like a clarifying question?
Sure.
So I don't know what video you mentioned it. I don't know if it was office hours or a practice video or something. You said 3 hours for the exam,
Yes, that's correct.
and you said possibly 3 programs.
So yeah,
Is that the case? Have you finished? I know you said you're going to finalize it tomorrow.
no, have not. I haven't done anything on the exam at all.
Okay. And you said something about a rubric is how you grade. Will that be available for us to see, like how you're gonna take off points for each program?
Because that would tell you what you needed to do on the program. It's available afterwards if you have questions. But yeah, it's not the kind of rubric that you can, it's not general categories. It's very specific. Is that bit of code in there? So that would be a checklist of how to do the program. So I don't really set it.
Okay. And of the 3 things we're supposed to come up with, can we expect to have like a class that will need a test, and then also maybe an application or 2?
And actually the if I will probably do a class simple class class with a simple test, and that's one program in my mind. I know it's not physically one program, but I'm not going to complicate that. That's going to be real straightforward. With only 1 or 2 data members, so you don't have very many accessors, very many mutators. Okay, so and then the test should be real quick too. So I would consider that to be one program. Then the others will be things more like do something where you use methods or there. Oh, so here's what I'm thinking right now. One's a class with a test. One's an array. One's a method. That's the outline of what I'm thinking for the exam right now. Okay.
Is it going to be an array with columns and rows?
Probably not.
Okay, because last class you said we weren't going to have arrays on our test.
Did I say that?
When we dropped chapter 8, we picked up arrays on our test. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think arrays are okay. Arrays are cool. Arrays are important. Yeah, I won't. That's too much to keep track of under the pressure of an exam. So yeah, but one-dimensional arrays are not bad. And then for all of those, you may need to have the for loops and the while loops and all that stuff. Okay. Okay, anything else?
Actually, on arrays, if you have say you have an array with 3 elements and an empty array with 4 elements, do you have to use some loop to go through and assign each one, or could you say like you said, array B equals array A, it would assign the first 3 and leave the 4th one empty?
Now, I think they have to be the same size for that to work.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a size parameter there.
So you would have to use a loop of the shorter length array and then just okay.
Yep.
Or shorter arrays length, I should say. Thanks.
Okay, so let's call it quits. Christine, you can hang around. Everybody else free to go? Oh, Christina, sorry, let the A off. So let me stop the recording.